That's it, Pit. Wrap up warm. The wind always seems to be howling down here, even when the sun shines. The year's gone quickly. I remember when the river weir was full of ships waiting to get into the South Docks. The crews loved coming to Sunderland. The riverside pubs were always packed with thirsty sailors in those days. Mind you, a ship could be in the docks for weeks, whilst the cargo was unloaded. Nowadays, what with new docking methods, ships can be in and out within hours. They say the traffic isn't as heavy in the docks today, but I think the discharging process is a lot quicker and easier.
How long have the docks been here, Grandad?
Much longer than you and me, Ashley. The South Dock was opened in 1850, 150 years ago. It was a big event in the history of Sunderland, and crowds gathered from all over the northeast to watch the proceedings. It was a grand day out. Roofs, windows and pavements were densely crowded with people. The bells of different churches rang out. Guns were fired at intervals, and the river was packed with every variety of boat decorated with bright flags and happy people. The docks were opened by George Hudson, also known as the Railway King. You can see him stand next to the tallest funnel in the middle of the crowds, waving his top hat in the air. He was a railway developer, but was a fraud and a trickster. He may have cheated thousands of people out of the money, but he was good for Sunderland. He became a leading figure in the development of the South Docks and an MP for the town in 1845.
I wish I'd been with Grandad, but why were the docks built?
Coal, Ashley. The cheapest way to move coal to London and further afield was by sea. For hundreds of years, Sunderland was the main port for the Durham coalfield, but the river always caused problems. The weir wasn't a good harbour. It was narrow and prone to silting. They used to dredge it all day, every day, to make it easier for shipping. And when the weather was bad, it was very dangerous for ships to put into. The South Dock solved these problems. They provided easy access to Sunderland by sea and protected the coal fleets from storms. After the docks were built, the quantity of coal exported from Sunderland between 1851 and 1858 rose by 56%. If you look over to your left, you can see the first collier ships loading coal from the Staithes.
What are staves, Grandad?
Staithes stuck out from the quayside like piers. They used to load the coal straight into the waiting colliers. The Staithes did away with the keelmen. You didn't need men to load ships anymore. There were 32 Staithes at the South Docks, but they weren't all in use at the same time. The west side of the Hudson Dock was covered in them.
Where have they all gone, Grandad?
As the coal trade died out, the Staithes were dismantled. This picture was shot in October 1964. You can see there's one Staithe and two coal conveyors in action. The last coal was exported from Sunderland in 1986. Today there's hardly a trace of the industry left. It's only there in the memories of older people like me.
And me, Grandad. Now you've told me about it, I'll remember too. Who built the South Docks?
The South Dock wasn't the first dock at Sunderland. The famous engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel built the North Dock on the opposite side of the river in 1837. It wasn't very successful. It was far too small and became known as the Sir Hedworth Williamson's bathtub after the local landowner who promoted it. Most of the coal exported from Sunderland came from collieries south of the weir, and the majority of the business community wanted a dock on the south side.
So that's how the South Docks came about.
Yes, that's right, Ashley. 10 years after the North Dock was opened, the Sunderland Dock Act was passed. This allowed Sunderland Dock Company to build wet docks on the south side of the river. In 1846, work began on a 47-acre dock, designed by John Murray. Over 13,000 men, 1,200 wagons, and 10 steam engines were involved in its construction.
Apart from coal, what else happened down here?
Well, as you know, Sunderland was also famous for building ships, and there was a fine shipyard down at the docks. It was a family firm, Bartram's. Do you know why they were unique, Ashley?
No, Grandad?
It's because they were the last shipyard in Britain to launch their ships directly into the North Sea.
It looks very windy there too.
Yes, pet, just like today. Bartram's was built on land which had been reclaimed from the sea. They used to say that during the winter, the weather conditions there were really wet. They called it the Burma Road.
Why, Grandad?
You know, I've no idea.
How do you know so much about the docks, Grandad?
I used to work here, Ashley, as a docker.
What's a docker?
Dockers load and unload the ships that come into the port. They also empty and fill the warehouses.
Why did you work here?
My father and my uncle both worked as crane drivers. And when I was 15, my father asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, work down the docks. The next day, I reported to the gate and was sent to the foreman crane driver, Mr. White. At first, he said there were no jobs. But when I told him that my father and my uncle already worked here, he smiled and said, start Monday.
What kind of cargo came in and out of the docks?
Everything you can imagine, from all over the world. Scrap metal from America, wooden pit props from Sweden, oil from other parts of the UK, a sisal from East Africa for rope making, coffee from East Africa and grain from Canada. Look at the size of those two huge grain warehouses next to the coal states on the west side of Hudson Dock. But the weirdest cargo I ever handled was zoo animals.
Wow!
They used to come from East Africa. There were wild cats, giraffes, zebras, and monkeys.
Did you always work here?
No, that was the great thing about the docks. No 2 days were ever alike. You could be unloading zoo animals on Corporation Quay one day and discharging oil in Hendon Docks the next.
What are Corporation Quay and Hendon Dock?
The South Dock isn't just the original dock built by George Hudson. Over the years, it's been extended to become a complex system of docks. Hendon Dock was built in 1868 to handle the growing trade and increasing size of ships coming to Sunderland. Hendon Dock was also the home of the world's first aluminium alloy Bascule bridge. It worked like a castle drawbridge, allowing ships to pass in and out of Hendon Dock. It was opened by Alfred Barnes, the Minister of Transport, on the 26th of November 1948 at 12 noon. Unfortunately, the combination of aluminium, steel rivets and salty sea air caused the bridge to corrode, and it was demolished in 1978. Corporation Quay was built in 1934 by the Sunderland Corporation. It is a deep water quay and equipped for handling general cargo. It's just outside the river entrance to the South Docks.
Did you enjoy working here, Grandad?
Yes, I used to love working here, being amongst friends. It was very healthy, outdoors all the time. Mind you, we did suffer from sore backs with all the lifting we had to do, and of course we had to put up with the seagulls. We used to say there were dockers who died and who couldn't stay away from the job.
Is it very different now?
Yes, it's a lot quieter. There was a time when every corner of the docks was filled with activity. Thousands of people worked down here in every trade imaginable. And the noise, particularly from the shipyards, was tremendous. Things are a lot different now. Coal mining and shipbuilding, once the lifelines of many Sunderland families, no longer exist. Times change, and the way we dockers worked is a thing of the past, what with technology and all. Still, there's new industries coming into the town bringing jobs for young'uns like you, Ashley.
I wonder what the South Docks will be like when I'm a grandmother.